Hi there, and welcome back to another gardening episode. We're going to plant some tomatoes today, and again, we're still planted in containers. I just went to our neighborhood garage sale this morning, and I have a neighbor who every year starts a number of plants from seed. A lot of the seed he's collected from his own produce in the garden from the year before, and he sells tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and flowers and all kinds of different things, beans, peas, everything. And I always get some plants from him, and he does a great job. So that is all to say, I don't really know what the variety of this particular tomato is. It is a yellow, smaller tomato. So like a plum tomato, maybe, like bigger than a grape, smaller than a Roma. But it is a yellow variety, so I think that'll be quite nice. And I'm going to keep it in a container. This is a container I used last year for peppers. You do need, I kept about half of the soil from last year just to save some cash. You can reuse pots with soil from the year previous, but keep in mind that the nutritional value in the soil is probably depleted from last year's plant. So I kept about half of the soil, the half that I got rid of I just threw into my garden, and then I'm topping it up with new potting soil with some good vitamins and fertilizers in there. So we'll mix that up just a little bit. And now we've got a nice full pot of soil, and don't worry about a mess, we're outdoors. Planting a tomato, there are a couple things to keep in mind. First, just look at all the lovely roots there. There's lots of nice white roots. So we're just going to loosen those up a little bit to make sure that they get good contact with the soil in the new pot. We want to encourage them to grow and reach out. The other way we're going to encourage these roots, the plant to grow and reach out, is when you're growing a tomato, you want to make sure that you plant it to over the level of the bottom couple of leaves. And that's because not only all of these roots at the bottom, but where these leaves are coming off of the main stalk, more roots will form once it's under the soil, and that'll give you a stronger plant, a hardier plant. It'll be more stable, and it will be taking more nutrients and more moisture from the pot, and that will result in better fruit. So we're going to leave those. I'm going to take that big one off and just putting in a depression, making sure it's deep enough, and planting above those last few leaves on the bottom. So that again is going to form new roots and lead to a stronger, healthier plant. Another important thing with those types of leaves, when you're planting tomatoes, or when you're growing tomatoes in general, you have to look for suckers. The suckers are these little guys that grow in where a leaf meets the main stalk. You want to pluck these off and just toss them away, because they're going to be taking energy from the plant that you want the plant to be putting into producing flowers and fruit. So, and this is something you'll have to do right throughout the season. You need to pluck them out and keep an eye on it, like weekly. I will go out and have a look and make sure that no new suckers are growing. So we'll be watching for flowers and watching for more of these fruit to come. I'm going to put a little bit of support in here to help keep the plant upright, and make sure there's one more little guy. See, and this is trying to make this. See how that little guy is growing right out of the crook there. So we're going to pull him out so that he can't take any more energy from the fruit. And that's that. A couple things to think about with tomatoes. You do need to keep the moisture very consistent throughout the growing season. If they go through periods of being very dry and then being very wet, you'll find that the fruit will split. And that's obviously not what we want. If you keep a consistent level of moisture throughout the season, you'll get a better quality of fruit and a happier plant. The other thing, tomatoes really like calcium. So an easy way to do that is to add some bone meal to the soil when you're planting. And I do that when I'm planting them in the ground in vegetable patch, but I don't do it so much with the containers. You can also do it by adding crushed eggshells to the soil. So when you're making your eggs at breakfast, you break them, make sure you rinse them, because you don't want the egg albumin, the leftover egg stuff, to attract raccoons or other varmints who might be in your garden. So rinse out the eggshells and then crush them up, and you can combine them into the soil, mix them into the soil, and they will break down and add calcium. If you leave them on top of the soil, they will also eventually break down. But the other benefit of that is that they will discourage slugs and snails from attacking your plants. So particularly if you have, lettuces or spinach, any greens that slugs and snails will come and eat every evening. The eggshells are sharp. They hurt these pests, and so they will deter them from eating your produce. So you get a bonus there, right? You get calcium in the soil, and you keep away some of the key pests that are a problem. So keep an eye. Again, container gardening, it means that they're going to dry out quickly, so I'll be watering this every day throughout the season. I'm going to put a little support in so that this can grow up nice and tall and produce some beautiful yellow, wonderful tomatoes that will be nice and sweet and that we can enjoy throughout the summer months. Okay, thanks very much. If you have any questions about growing tomatoes or other vegetables, leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Take care.